For the past half a century, an ancient army of warriors has been quietly conquering the world. Wherever small battalions of China's famous terracotta warriors are exhibited, they win over a new legion of fans.
In 1974, while digging a simple well in China's Shanxi province, a group of farmers struck something that would astonish the world. First came a fragment of clay.
Is the first emperor's tomb. Into the center of what is thought to be the largest burial complex in the world.
The latest scientific techniques unlock the dark truth about the ancient world's lost superpower.
And then, piece by piece, an army rose from the earth, silent, lifelike, and standing guard for over 2,000 years. What they had uncovered was no ordinary burial site. It was the gateway to the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, the man who forged the warring states into one nation, built the foundations of the Great Wall, and ruled with an ambition that reshaped history. Yet the heart of his tomb, the chamber said to hold the emperor himself, has never been opened. Ancient texts speak of rivers of mercury, traps, and treasures beyond imagination. Modern science confirms dangerous levels of mercury in the soil. So why does the tomb remain sealed? What secrets lie within, untouched since 210 BCE? And what risks come with disturbing it? This is the story of the Terracotta Army and the enduring mystery of what still sleeps beneath the earth.
The tomb actually covers a very large area. Only a few areas and surrounding the border part of the tomb complex have been excavated.
It began not with a grand expedition or a government-funded dig, but with thirst. In March 1974, the land near the humble village of Xi'an in China's Shanxi province was parched from drought. Local farmers, desperate for water, began digging a well in the bone-dry earth. They expected nothing more than a trickle of groundwater to help irrigate their struggling crops. But fate had other plans. Just a few feet below the surface, their shovels struck something unusual, hard, unyielding, and certainly not natural. At first, they thought it might be an old pot or some buried debris from long-forgotten times. Yet as they cleared away the soil,
it's quite extraordinary. Over 8,000 terracotta soldiers have been found there, along with 520 horses, 130 chariots, most of which are still buried.
what emerged from the centuries of silence stunned even the most seasoned observers. A life-size clay head, then a torso, then limbs. It was a statue, no, a soldier, frozen in mid-march, armored with distinct facial features carved in startling detail. Word spread like wildfire. Archaeologists from the Chinese government descended upon the site within days. As they carefully expanded the excavation, it became clear that this was not an isolated statue. It was just the beginning. The soil, once untouched for over 2,000 years, was peeled back like a scroll of forgotten history. And what it revealed was staggering. Row after row of terracotta warriors, arranged in strict military formation, as if awaiting orders that would never come. Some stood tall with spears. Others manned chariots drawn by stone horses. And all of them seemed to face the same direction, east toward what archaeologists believed was meant to be the battlefield of the afterlife. The magnitude of the discovery was unlike anything the modern world had seen. This was not merely an artistic display. It was an ancient military complex, engineered in clay. The more they unearthed, the more the mystery deepened. What kind of leader would commission such a monumental project? Why were these warriors buried underground? What exactly were they guarding? The answer, it turned out, lay deeper still, beneath another hill entirely. A massive earthen mound loomed nearby, the final resting place of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. A man so consumed by power that he sought to conquer not just the known world, but the afterlife itself. And now, 2,000 years later, the ghost army he summoned from the soil had finally returned to the surface. These weren't just statues, They were soldiers, and they weren't guarding a tomb. They were defending an empire. That never ended. The Terracotta Army is one of the most staggering feats of funerary art and military imagination ever recorded. Over 8,000 individual soldiers, 670 horses, 130 chariots, all arranged in precise military formation, facing east, toward the lands Qin Shi Huang had once conquered in life and intended to rule again in death. This was not art for admiration. It was not meant to be seen by human eyes. And yet the level of detail is extraordinary. Each figure stands roughly 6 feet tall, life-sized and lifelike. But what makes this army so haunting isn't just its size, it's its individuality. No two soldiers are alike. One may bear a scowl of determination. Another might have a faint smirk, a broken nose, or a tightly wound bun of hair. Their armor differs. Their mustaches vary. Their facial structures, postures, even hand positions are distinct. Some appear young and eager, others older, battle-worn. This wasn't mass production as we know it. It was something more advanced, something almost industrial in precision, yet human in its outcome. Historians believe the creation of the Terracotta Army was achieved through a system akin to assembly line manufacturing, 2 millennia before Ford revolutionized it. Limbs, torsos, and heads were molded separately. Once assembled, artists would etch, sculpt, and customize the final touches by hand. Afterward, each warrior was fired in massive kilns to harden them for eternity. Originally, they were also painted in vivid colors, reds, greens, blues, but centuries underground faded those hues to ghostly grays. Even the weapons they held, real bronze spears, crossbows, and swords, were crafted with precision. Many still retain their sharp edges, thanks to an ancient rust-proofing technique that scientists are still trying to understand. And why go to such lengths? Because Qin Shi Huang believed that death was not the end. It was a continuation. In the afterlife, he would still be emperor. He would still command legions. And those legions had to be just as prepared, just as loyal, just as fearsome as any flesh and blood army that ever walked the earth. This was not a burial, it was a campaign waged against time, death, and the gods themselves. And with every warrior brought back into the light, we are reminded of the scale of ambition and the terror of absolute power buried beneath the soil of ancient China. The Terracotta Army was just the outer shell of a far more elaborate vision, one that remains to this day largely untouched beneath the surface of the earth. Just beyond the rows of clay warriors stands a massive 76-meter-high burial mound, cloaked in earth and time. From a distance, it appears as nothing more than a hill, a natural rise in the landscape. But appearances can deceive. Advanced surveys using satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar have pierced the soil, revealing something astonishing beneath the surface: an enormous underground complex hidden beneath the mound like a buried kingdom. And not just any kingdom. What the scans revealed seems to be a miniature replica of Qin Shi Huang's empire, an entire world built in the shadows, carved and constructed for eternity. There are multiple chambers, vast corridors, and underground halls, mapped with architectural precision and aligned with symbolic intent. The entire tomb appears to mirror the geography of ancient China, from its great mountains to winding rivers. Each feature supposedly crafted in careful detail, reinforcing the idea that Qin Shi Huang didn't want to be remembered as a mortal ruler. He wanted to reign forever, from a throne hidden beneath the ground. But the most mysterious part of all, the central burial chamber, the very heart of this ancient mausoleum, remains completely unopened. Not because no one knows where it is. Quite the opposite. Archaeologists know exactly where it lies, right beneath the apex of the mound, sealed inside layers of stone, timber, and time-hardened soil. They could dig, but they don't. Why? Because what lies inside may be too fragile, too dangerous, or perhaps too sacred to disturb. There's a haunting reverence around the emperor's final resting place, a sense that this tomb isn't just a historical artifact, it's a gateway, a passage into a world shaped by obsession, mystery, and fear. Thousands of years ago, those who constructed it believed they were creating more than a tomb. They were building a cosmos. And to open that cosmos today may invite consequences we're not prepared to face. So the mound remains sealed, a mountain of secrets beneath a quiet sky. And beneath it all, one of the greatest enigmas in archaeology still waits, undisturbed, guarding the ultimate truth of Qin Shi Huang's eternal empire. To understand why the tomb remains sealed, we must turn to the warnings of the past. Roughly a century after Qin Shi Huang's death, the historian Sima Qian recorded chilling details about what was buried beneath that mound. His descriptions read like something from myth or fantasy. Yet over the years, science has begun to catch up with his words. Sima Qian described an underground palace, a recreation of the emperor's empire in microcosm. Cities sculpted in miniature, a ceiling painted with constellations to reflect the night sky. And, most haunting of all, rivers of mercury flowing through the tomb to represent the mighty Yangtze and Yellow rivers. But these weren't symbolic. They were literal rivers of liquid metal. Flowing mercury meant to simulate the power and continuity of Qin's rule. Mercury in those times was believed to grant immortality, a mystical substance, a divine elixir. Qin Shi Huang, obsessed with eternal life, had consumed mercury mixtures in the years leading to his death, ironically accelerating his demise. And even in death, he surrounded himself with it. But the historian didn't stop there. He also wrote of deadly traps built into the tomb, mechanized crossbows hidden within the walls, designed to fire automatically at anyone who dared disturb the sacred peace of the emperor's eternal sleep. Triggers concealed under the floors, pressure mechanisms armed centuries ago, possibly still functional. For years, scholars dismissed these tales as ancient exaggeration, until modern science entered the picture. When researchers analyzed the soil around the tomb's central mound, they made a startling discovery: unusually high levels of mercury, far beyond anything that could occur naturally, and not scattered randomly, but concentrated precisely in the areas where Sima Qian described those flowing rivers. It wasn't fiction, it was evidence. The mercury is still there, lurking beneath the surface, toxic, invisible, and real. And if that part of the legend is true, what about the rest? What if the crossbows are still armed? What if opening the tomb triggers a cascade of destruction? Not just for the artifacts, but for those trying to uncover them. This is no ordinary archaeological site. It's a fortress built for the afterlife, laced with poison and fear, and guarded not only by stone soldiers, but by ancient warnings, written in ink and soil. Perhaps the tomb remains sealed not just out of caution, but out of respect. Because sometimes the greatest truths in history are not the ones we uncover, but the ones we choose to leave buried. It's been nearly 5 decades since the world first laid eyes on the Terracotta Army, and yet, the tomb they were built to protect remains untouched. Sealed, silent, waiting. But why? The answer lies in 2 powerful forces: technology and reverence. The technological barrier is not just about digging. This isn't a simple case of breaking into a burial chamber. Qin Shi Huang's tomb was engineered with complexities far ahead of its time. Its internal structure, filled with layered chambers, unknown materials, and possible automated traps, presents a nightmare for modern archaeologists. Any misstep could cause irreversible damage. Even today, with modern imaging and non-invasive tools, experts admit they're still in the dark about what truly lies beneath. The worry isn't just about breaking into the tomb, it's about breaking it. Opening the central chamber could destroy its contents. Delicate artifacts might disintegrate when exposed to air. Ancient inks and pigments could vanish in seconds. A miscalculated breach could flood mercury-tainted corridors, contaminating the entire site. But just as important as the technological challenge is the cultural one. In Chinese tradition, tombs are not just burial sites, they're sacred realms, thresholds between the mortal and the divine. Disturbing them is viewed not only as a violation of history, but a disruption of cosmic balance. And this isn't just any tomb. This is the tomb of the first emperor of a unified China. There's immense national pride and symbolic weight attached to the site. To violate it recklessly would be desecrating a temple. So for now, the Chinese government has chosen a cautious path. Preserve the mystery, protect the integrity, and wait for the right moment if it ever comes. Because once the seal is broken, there's no going back. What exactly lies inside the emperor's sealed tomb? No one knows for sure, and that silence has created space for endless speculation, some rooted in history, others in legend. Could it be filled with unimaginable treasures? Gold, jade, ceremonial weapons? Ancient scrolls lost to time that could rewrite the story of China's origins? Or is it something even more profound? Some scholars believe the chamber contains the preserved body of Qin Shi Huang himself, entombed within a mercury-lined sarcophagus, frozen in a moment of engineered immortality. His quest to conquer death didn't end in life. It may have continued in death. Others suggest something even larger, that the Terracotta Army is just one cog in a vast spiritual machine, a necropolis built with metaphysical precision, designed to ensure the emperor's reign in the afterlife. Not merely a mausoleum, but a kingdom constructed across dimensions. And then there's the theory that chills the bones of every archaeologist. What if the warnings of Sima Xian were not poetic flourishes, but technical blueprints? If the traps are real, if the crossbows still sit armed, opening the tomb could trigger a deadly sequence. Not a curse, but the cold precision of ancient defense mechanisms. Mechanical engineering from 2,000 years ago that could still function today. These aren't myths, they're possibilities. And they make one thing clear: opening the tomb won't just require courage, it'll demand absolute certainty. To understand the tomb, you have to understand the man it was built for. Qin Shi Huang wasn't born into power, he forged it. In 221 BCE, after years of brutal conquest, he unified the warring states of China under one banner. For the first time in recorded history, there was one China and one ruler. But unification came at a cost. He ruled with the iron grip of a man who feared chaos more than cruelty. He burned books to control thought, buried scholars alive to silence dissent, standardized currency, laws, and script to erase regional identity and replace it with his own. He wasn't just building an empire, he was building forever, and death terrified him. Obsessed with immortality, he consumed mercury-laced tonics, convinced they would preserve his soul. He sent ships to mythical islands, searching for the elixir of life. But as the years passed and the signs of mortality crept in, his focus shifted. If he could not escape death, he would dominate it. His mausoleum became his final, greatest conquest, a 38-year construction project that enlisted over 700,000 workers, craftsmen, engineers, artisans, laborers, all to build an empire beneath the earth. It was more than a tomb. It was a declaration. I will not be forgotten. I will not end. I am the first emperor. I am forever. This is the billion-dollar question, the one that haunts archaeologists, historians, and dreamers alike. When will the tomb be opened? With every passing decade, technology advances. New tools are invented. Safer excavation techniques emerge. Pressure builds, both from within academic circles and from a global audience eager for answers. Yet the official stance remains clear. Not yet. Decision is more than scientific. It's ethical, philosophical, even spiritual. Because once the tomb is opened, it can never be unopened. The air will rush in, the balance will be disturbed, and whatever has waited in silence for 2,000 years will finally face the light. Will we discover ancient secrets preserved perfectly in the dark, or will it all turn to dust the moment we touch it? There is no second chance, so the world waits, watching a mound of earth in central China that holds one of history's last great mysteries. And the first emperor, sealed in silence, waits too. The Terracotta Army was just the beginning, a silent legion guarding a door that no one dares open. Qin Shi Huang may have died over 2 millennia ago, but his presence still looms like a shadow beneath the earth. One tomb, one emperor, infinite questions. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more hidden history and forbidden mysteries. Because the past isn't buried, it's waiting.